Hi there. I'm going to talk about the very best part of the original Star Wars. It's not this, or even this. It's the first four shots in the film. The very first four at the very beginning. Here's Star Wars on film from 1977. First we get the 20th Century Fox fanfare and searchlight animation, and then the Lucasfilm Limited title card. This fades to silence and darkness, and then the note about the galaxy far, far away. And finally, this. 1, 2, 3, 4. This sequence builds anticipation and opens every Star Wars movie. Well, nearly. It sets the scene for the famous story crawls and reflects some Hollywood history that you probably aren't even aware of. So, what are we looking at here? George Lucas had his own production company, Lucasfilm, which produced Star Wars. Lucasfilm had a distribution deal with 20th Century Fox, a company with a much longer history in American cinema. It was formed out of a 1935 merger between Fox Films and upstart 20th Century Pictures. That famous animated searchlight logo came from 20th Century Pictures, and so did the fanfare, the short piece of music that accompanies the logo. The fanfare had been created in 1933 by studio composer Alfred Newman. This Alfred Newman, not this one. Anyway, until the 1950s, movies were made in what's called Academy ratio, which is about 4:3. This is the same as the traditional television aspect ratio. By the 1950s, though, with ticket sales flagging and audiences staying home to watch TV, movie studios needed something different to get people to theaters. Enter widescreen. Fox came up with a system that used anamorphic lenses to stretch the picture to twice the normal width while keeping the same height. They named their technology CINEMASCOPE, and it debuted in 1953 with a film called The Robe. Widescreen was a big deal, and Fox branded CINEMASCOPE using a title card after the Fox logo. Here's the one for The Robe. They also asked Alfred Newman, remember him, who was still around, to create some additional music to play during the CINEMASCOPE branding. He added on to his 20-year-old ditty, and this extra bit is referred to as the CINEMASCOPE extension. It showed up for the first time in 1954, and you already know it, it's the part that sounds like this. So now Fox has the fanfare and the CINEMASCOPE extension, which they used for the next 12 or 13 years in front of their productions. By the late 1960s, though, widescreen is ubiquitous, and the CINEMASCOPE technology has been superseded by PANAVISION and other improved standards, so Fox stops using the branding. They also stopped playing the musical extension to the fanfare, which mostly returns to its earlier short form. By the time Star Wars rolls around 10 years later, the CINEMASCOPE brand and the musical extension are all but forgotten. But George Lucas grew up watching movies in the 1950s, and his new sci-fi film has a bit of an intentional retro feel to it. He asks Fox if he can use the full version of the fanfare, including that old extension, and they say, sure, go ahead. Lucas is shooting in Panavision, not CINEMASCOPE, and he doesn't need to brand the idea of widescreen anyway, so he uses the extension cue to show his Lucasfilm credit, which looks like this. Lucas's epic space opera now has a sort of Easter egg in its opening, an intentional Hollywood throwback, a nod to the 1950s. Lucas talks to John Williams, the composer he's working with. Williams has just done Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind with Spielberg, and in addition to Star Wars, will go on to do Superman, E.T., Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, and I can't even keep track of them all. Anyway, Williams was planning to do a big brass fanfare to kick off Star Wars, and likes the idea of playing off the Fox fanfare. So he matches the chord at the start of the theme with the one that ends the CINEMASCOPE extension, B-flat major, to make it feel like it's sort of part of the same score. But he and Lucas drop a dramatic pause in between for effect. So you get the fanfare from the 1930s, the CINEMASCOPE extension from the 1950s, then the galaxy far, far away in silence, and then finally, boom. This ended up feeling so coherent and set up the movie so well that not only did subsequent Star Wars films start the exact same way, but Fox started incorporating that CINEMASCOPE extension into its searchlight fanfare for other films, effectively resurrecting the branding for a defunct mid-century lens technology and making it part of the core Fox brand through the present day. That's why if, like me, you grew up after Star Wars, you think of the CINEMASCOPE extension as just part of the Fox fanfare, and believe it or not, you have George Lucas and Star Wars to thank for that. I said that all the subsequent Star Wars films started the same way, but they actually don't. The first 6 films made by Lucas all do, but the new trilogy that started in 2015 omits the Fox logo and fanfare entirely, opening to a silent Lucasfilm title. This is easy to explain. George Lucas sold his company to Disney in 2012, and Disney does their own distribution, so the new Star Wars movies just have nothing to do with 20th Century Fox at all. In 2019, however, Disney happened to acquire 20th Century Fox. With both Fox and Lucasfilm under the same corporate parent, we can hope that the order in the galaxy may yet be restored, and one of the best openings in all of cinema may come back in some future film. Until then, may that fanfare be with you.